All right. So on to ProjectWise folder structure. So again, we'll be working with the regions, with everyone as we're going through the CAD manual on this. What we've really done is, again, taken a look at how the structure was done over a decade ago, how those things were pulled together, how we all used to work in that, and then looking at, okay, what does it mean with digital delivery? What does it mean with how ORD operates differently than DAI, than the legacy projects? So that was a big thing that we looked at there. So those are a lot of the changes to the current folder structure. I know the current folder structure of what I've heard from a lot of different folks at all the different regions was that, especially like not all specialty groups were included in the folders, so hard to figure out where those files would go. Also, just not really splitting out sheet files and other files and that type of stuff. So we're really taking a look at that and addressing to all the specialty group needs. So as you can see kind of on here too, just with this graphic, and then I'll open up ProjectWise as well. But we've identified all the specialty groups that are within CDOT to make sure that everyone has a home. So that's one of the biggest things that we did there. We'll go through the location of the files, like so the folder structure breakdown, the specialty group folders, and what that means between the folder structure and the file naming and how those interact with each other. And then we'll go through the document searches and using the filters and talking about dependency reviewer and being able to look at those things. So I will move on then to, let me go ahead and open the document so you guys can see the document. So this, again, this is folder structure that we've come up with. We're getting comments on. We'll be working with the regions as we go through this. But I'm going to walk through this somewhat. And again, please chat your questions. And then once we're done, we'll also ask questions at the end. So nothing's changed with project number. Project number is still the same. We've added in a couple of new folders: archive milestone records and design milestone submittal. Those being different. So archive milestone records are those records. So once you're done with FIR or you're done with DOR, any one of those submittals, you now have a place that you can go, okay, here's all my files that I had at that point. So now I'm down 90%, down doing my 90% submittal. And oh, wait, we want to go back to what we did 30%. You at least have that file now. You don't have to go try and figure out how to find it, contact IT, get a backup. You still have that data connection now with it, because what the plan is currently is to zip those files. So those files would be exported out, zipped, and then a zip file would be put back on. Then the extraction is much easier. So that's where that is now. We are working on trying to find something that is a little bit more efficient than that, but that's where we're at right now. So again, snapshot in time. So design milestone submittal is the next one. So what that one is what we're really trying to do in this sense is, as you can see, the files stored are copies of those files. We have a method to the madness, again, behind the scenes of where it's going to be pretty easy to update those to say, if they are an FIR file, an FOR file. And again, this isn't all your files. That's what archive milestone records is for. The only thing that goes in here is what is being submitted, what is being delivered. So the PDF plans, any like an iModel file or any container file of corridors, different things like that. That's what this home is for. And as you can see underneath the 04 final add, we just used this one as an example. All of these would have the same plot sets, quality, and specifications. Again, the reason why those would reside in there is because those are part of what the submittal is. So quality, the QC and the QA documents, that would fall again. They would fall under the respective submittals. So you would have plot sets under each one of these. So quality, same thing you would have under each one of these, because we want to make sure that, CDOT consultants, municipalities, whoever is working on these things, that CDOT, when you all get a submittal, or when you all provide a submittal, you have a place for those documentations. You have one-stop shop where you can go, hey, these are my documentations for this. These are all my quality checks. Here are the P sets that I used because I have a different index based on those. Specifications, same thing. I have an order of different specifications depending on, if I'm doing project specials, if I'm doing standard specials at 30%, 60, and so on and so forth. That's really what those files are for. And I know we got some questions, so that's great. We'll get to those for sure. Environmental, geotechnical. So environmental's going to be just slightly different than some of the other ones, but this is where swamp notes, your plans, details for sheets, that's where they'll go. But environmental itself, any of the model files, line work files, again, if it's non-attributed elements within that file, those will be line files type of thing. That's where these would reside. So your containers, your design models, any of those things, that's where those would set. Geotechnical, that one will have a geotechnical. We've already gotten some feedback and we did miss the mark on that. It should be materials, geotechnical materials together. So that's where boring locations, your different design files there. So like if you have boring locations that are going to go in your profile, if you have any kind of recommendations in there, any details, boring log, soil information, containers, anything that's needed with materials geotechnical, those would go in sheets again. Reports, any of those reports that you have created, from data collection, calculations, so pavement reports, the pavement reports will be in reports, but any calculations, different things that are made will go in there. Working, I think everybody probably started seeing that. I know nobody has that now. We're bringing that back just because we know that it's a necessity with what we do. Everyone needs working files because we need to have those. And again, that file designation for the file naming, we have WRK for any working files. That'll help also identify and keep design files clean, because if there is a working file in there at the end of the day for deliverables, we need to make sure that that's not in there, and that'll help us identify what those are. So as you can see, hydraulics, landscape, they all have very similar things in them. And since this is more geared towards roadway, I am going to jump down to roadway. We still have a media folder, but that also is for exhibits, photos, presentations, public meetings, different elements like that. Project management, that is one where schedule, any matrices that we have, agendas, minutes, memos, forms, information from stakeholders. So project information, you get development information that's going to come in. That's where all of these different items would reside. So, and I think we had some comments on that, so we'll address those too as we're moving forward. But again, a lot of the majority of these folders, rail transit, roadway, hydraulics, are going to have the same folders. And I'll jump into ProjectWise in a minute. The biggest thing I want to touch on though is like for roadway, for instance, right now, I know everyone puts everything, so all your files go in roadway. That's what you have. So in roadway, what we've done is it's where our design models will go. So corridors, our geometry, our templates, proposed terrains, phasing, design containers, things like that. Project title block, maybe not. I think those are some of the things we'll be talking about. but that's where those files will go. Again, calculations, any criteria, standards that are used for the project, that's where this would end up at. So like if I have, so my design criteria that I have for my state highway, that's where I'm going to put all that information, my K values, my speeds, my, all of that, my tapers, all that information. If I have super elevation calculations that I have done, those would go in calculations. Reports, geometry reports, forms, memos, variances, different things like that. That's where what would go in reports. Sheets, that's where all of our production elements will go pertaining to your specialty group. So again, under roadway, it's where our roadway plans would go, phasing plans, removals, profiles, details, and our production containers. And when we get into containers, we'll get more into what from a design container and a production container. Again, working folder. This is for your guys's playground is what I'm going to call it. So whenever you're doing any design intent, anything like that, we make sure that you can all get into that. Quantities. So quantities we have split out, and you'll see that in each one of the specialty groups for tabulations and spreadsheets. So instead of having one location and a whole bunch of different tabulations, what we're doing is we're making sure that that's given to each specialty group so that they can maintain that and look through that. That's what that quantities folder is for your spreadsheet tabulations for those. Your sheets that you have, so if I have tab sheets, again, those go in the sheet folder. It's my spreadsheets for my tabulations. That's where they'll reside, is in the quantities. So I think for that, one thing that we did also do, and I don't know if we have any right-of-way survey folks on here, but we did split out right-of-way and survey, so it's not one. So again, kind of back to Mark, I think your question with the traffic and ITS could do the same thing similarly, of making sure that right-of-way, since it has a little bit different information, right-of-way has their own sheets and tabulations and different ownership. We really wanted to kind of just spread those out. So right-of-way has that. And then survey would have its area for the data collection, monument information, their remote sensing. So anything from data information from there, different file formatting, the 3MSs, the OBJ files, any shape files, things like that, any elements come from LiDAR. That's where that survey data takes place. And then staking information, things like that, of course. Utilities, really same thing. The only difference with utilities from like roadway, rail transit, hydraulics, hydrology is under utilities, we have a SU folder. So that SU folder is for that utility data collection. That's done in the field. Any of that information that is developed from SU will come into that folder. So let's go to ProjectWise real quick. All right. So hopefully everyone can see this okay. I wish I could make it larger. So again, all those folders that we just went through, again, reside under pre-construction. So, and underneath that, you will have, for each project, and you're going to have a container file setup. That container file setup we'll get into once we get into the containers. Production file setup, again, a lot with really container, production container. The other one's design container. We'll probably rename those. Document management, we'll get into that as well. And then file naming, folder structure outline, which is what we all have been looking at over the past while here. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump to roadway. So under roadway, you'll see those same folders I just went over. So under roadway, you're going to see I have container files, corridor files, geometry files, proposed terrains, super elevations, my ITL, my template libraries. So again, big project, right? You're going to have a lot of files in here, kind of like what you do now. But one thing that we really want to make sure that we hit on, that was one of the items that I popped up, was using those filters. So underneath name, and I'm actually going to change this to default. And I was going to ask you about this too, Sahar, to make sure that this is the default for all users of where their name, description all show up, because right now it's application. So with that said, you can see everything has a written description of what it is. So we have written out what all of these are. Some of these will look familiar to some of you on the phone. So one way to filter this out, I just want to see my geometry files. So I'm going to go to Geo. So in my geometry files, I have all my geometry, and then there's one that pops in there that says CNR. The reason why that's in there is because it does have geo contained, but it also tells me, based on the file naming, that's a container file. So that container file is a file that has all of these in there. So same thing, if I want to go to my container files, I would just type that in and it shows me what container files I have. So that's what I can do with those. Same thing with quarter, with my quarter models. I can go in there and, oh, I have templates. There's my template library. Once I can use that as my filter to find the files that I want. So if I have a bunch of different types of files in there, I can filter through that way. One thing you want to make sure that you do is clear it out, because if you don't and you come back, and if I leave that and then I go to my sheets folder, and then I come back to my roadway folder. Oh, maybe it did clear it out. It does clear it out now. Just make sure you do clear it out, because you will have it open. And if you have it open, don't go to a different folder and you come back and you want to open a different file and you haven't cleared it, it's only going to show you what you've filtered out. That's what that entails. And again, working. So for working folders, this is for your playground, everything else. Under here, for the training purposes and what we're doing, we've included our names just so that we can filter out the different data sets of what we're working on, to make it easier for the training and education. What we'll end up doing is, for the file naming, you'll see at the end, we go ahead and tag our initials on what that is. So that's going to be the big thing that we'll want to make sure that we're doing there. So that's for pre-construction, for the folders and the folder structure where files go, those different elements. And again, you can see why we did the file naming. The way we have the file naming is it's more searchable. It's easier to find different things. It's easier to go somewhere. For project standards, from what I've been told by a few people, and I'm not sure if this applies to everyone, but under the work set standards, in there, we have, we'll go over the pin tables and stuff. That'll be in the plan production. So make sure you show up for the last day. In here, I've heard most people just come to the seed file to grab their seed files. So with that said, some of the things that are also in here are the sheet borders. That's something we'll be working with the regions on too, and what those sheet borders look like, or not look like, but where those sheet borders are stored. If they're stored in O5, if they need to be stored like under roadway, or if there's a general folder or something like that that needs to happen. With that, I think those are the main things. And again, work set, as we'll go through in the project file maintenance, that's really more for the project itself. But again, we'll kind of walk through some of those things, that this work set is for project specific and workspace is for CDOT specific. So one of the things that I think I have left to touch on is, and I'm not sure how many people are familiar. I think most people are, but for those who are not, dependency viewer is a big thing. We'll get more into that with the file maintenance. But what it does is it allows you to see what files you have, what things are in there, and elements like that. So really this one kind of helps out a lot to say, okay, yeah, my file's clean, different elements. But again, I'll get more into that in the file maintenance of things. But as far as file structures or the folder structure itself, I think Sahar, I think that pretty well covers it. I don't think that I'm missing anything. So I think we can stop recording.